Welcome back to your Networth's Network. I'm your host, Corey McNabb, and this is a networking style podcast where we bring up special guests, learn a little about them, about their life, about their business, and how we can all work together. My goal in life is to rise to a place of excellence, and I want to bring you with me. So that being said, we have a special guest, kind of a late notice, but hey, he's a trooper coming up on here, Mr. Keith Hoover. Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, all right, Corey, how are you today?
I'm good, brother. So I know we've talked a little bit. We had a little call the other day, got to know each other a little bit. But for everybody who's watching this, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. So, Keith Hoover, I live in the Atlanta metro area. I've been here about 8 years. Originally from North Carolina. Came down because my wife is originally from Atlanta, so we moved back down here, and we started our family. Got two boys, and currently just working towards some real estate goals. Also have a W-2 job that I'm also working as well. And yeah, man, just trying to do the best I can to put our family and the people around us in the best situation possible.
Gotcha. Okay. So you moved down here. For everybody who doesn't know, maybe if you're new to this show, I'm also just about northeast of Atlanta. So you moved down here because she had a job. She just wanted to be close to family. What was that final decision?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of both. Our story, we met in North Carolina because we actually attended the same college, North Carolina A&T State University, and she came back to start her business and be close to family. Her family's here, so we made the decision. She made the decision she wanted to come back, and she did that. And it took a couple of years. We were long distance for a couple of years, and then we got engaged, and then ultimately married. And I came down in the middle of that transition there. So yeah, it's been good just to be close to the support system. That's huge for us. Having a couple boys. When you're starting a family or have a family, if you do have that support system that's local, it's a game changer. You know what I mean? So that's something that we don't take lightly, because everyone doesn't actually have that same kind of situation, that same kind of setup. So we're blessed in that way.
Well, I'm happy for you, man. I can tell you, we're literally no more than 15 to 20 minutes from our family, but they still don't help out. So
Oh
I'm
man.
glad you got some help there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, we do.
so you mentioned your wife made the decision to start her own business. What does she do?
So my wife is a stylist, personal brand stylist. Basically, she helps women, specifically small business owners, and primarily she targets Black women who own small businesses and helps them kind of curate their looks. So if they're doing like a new photo shoot for their branding campaign, or if they just want to their daily looks to be updated or upgraded a little bit, she helps with that. She helps curate their looks, and yeah, so they can kind of step out and put the best foot forward, and look great while they're doing the great work that they do.
Okay, so she like actual like outfit, how they style, like what they wear, not
Yeah.
necessarily their brand.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's pretty cool. Um, all right. So you got two boys. How old are your boys?
So my boys are 15 and 7. Yeah, so we got a little gap there.
Decent gap. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yep. I got a 4-year-old. Got one that turns 2 here in about a week, and then I'll have a new one in December. So they're
You're
all
busy,
27
man.
months apart.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Awesome, man. Well, that's good to hear. Any plans for more?
No, no, we're done.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
two is definitely enough for us. We are good.
Awesome. Well, so you mentioned you have a W-2 job. Um, but you're also building out a real estate business. Um, I guess first, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your W-2, and then tell us about your W-2, and then we'll move on to the real estate stuff.
All right, cool. Yeah. My W-2, I'm a product manager, and I work for a company that manufactures fiber optic and copper communications cabling. So essentially all the stuff that people don't know they need, right? The infrastructure that's behind cell phones, this streaming platform, the internet, all of that. It's all supported by wires and cables that are in the air, in the ground. That's what the company I work for does. I guess I've been with this particular company for the last 8 years here in Atlanta. And I've been in that industry for quite a while, pretty much the last, call it 15 years. I've worked in this industry. It's been pretty good. Go through some ups and downs like any other industry. But yeah, it's been solid.
I gotcha. Let's see. In your point of view, are you trying to or build the real estate business because you don't want to do what you're doing anymore? Or is it just you feel that it's not maybe quite enough and you need to supplement? Or is it something totally separate?
Yeah, I think so. When I was younger, I kept this notebook and I would write down my goals in this notebook. And I remember looking back at that one day. I started this thing probably when I was like 19 or 20. And I guess when I was about, I don't know, somewhere in the early 30s, I found that notebook and I looked back at it. And I had accomplished pretty much everything on that list. And I also noticed I actually had a plan for pretty much everything on that list. One of those things was to be able to retire from my W-2 by the age of 40. Um, Ironically, though, that was the only one that I did not have a plan associated with. Right. So, and I realized at that point, all right, I have to work on trying to figure that piece out. And I mean, I'm 39, I'll be 40 in January. So I'm not quite going to hit that goal, I don't think quite yet. But now I have a plan, and that plan heavily involves real estate. So for me, the goal with investing in real estate was to give me the option, right, to keep working a W-2 or not. So getting to the point where I can cover all of my expenses, and then from there going to where I can actually surpass what I do earn from a W-2 today. Just so I can, again, have that option to either keep working or just go full time in real estate, or just have enough assets where they cover my life expenses and I can just choose to do whatever I want to, where to work, how I work, why I work, right? That's the goal. That's what real estate is going to do for me.
So that's awesome. What you just made me think of a question I've never asked before. So here you go. You get a first one. If money wasn't an issue, what would you do?
It's a great question. One of the things that I'm more passionate about is generosity in general. I like to be a giver. I want to be able to give opportunities to people that may not have it. I think I don't know what that specifically looks like, but it heavily involves giving resources, money, and time to helping people, especially people from my community, uh, get a leg up in life. Whether that's teaching some skills about how to invest, teaching some financial literacy stuff, or just giving to causes that I'm passionate about. It heavily involves the aspect of generosity. Great question. Never really been asked that question before in that way either. But I think if I had to give any kind of generic response, it would definitely involve a heavy amount of generosity.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know. It just popped in my head, and as you were saying, I'm like, well, how would I answer that question? And
Yeah,
honestly, it kind of goes back to I'd be building massive farms that regenerate themselves that can feed as many people as possible.
absolutely. Yeah,
um, but no, okay, yeah. No, I even threw myself off there for a second. By the way, Keith, this podcast does not get edited. So you'll see I make a lot of blunders. I'll just restart, go for it, whatever.
all right.
Um, it's about imperfect action, you know. So real estate, that's what it was. I was like, where were we going with this? So you're building a real estate business. Where are you at now within your real estate business, and then where do you see it going?
Yeah. So where we are now, right now, we have one property. It is a long-term rental in Augusta, Georgia, and a little story behind that one is that it's a property that my wife's grandmother owned and lived in pretty much for the majority of her adult life. And my mother-in-law was in control of the property after my wife's grandmother had passed away, and she was just holding on to it. A couple of family members had lived in it here and there, but for the most part, it had been sitting vacant, and she had kind of gotten to the point where she was just tired of maintaining it, the taxes and all that good stuff, and so she was going to sell it. And my wife and I said, "Well, no, we'll take it. We'll take it, and we'll take care of it." So we did a full renovation on that and put a renter in there. So that one we still hold. Then we ventured into the short-term rental space briefly and bought a smaller property up in Ellijay, and it did okay. It was a smaller one, two-bedroom property, and I just found out that I personally do not like the swings in revenue that short-term rentals. It's just inherent, right? There's going to be certain seasons where you're going to get more guests than others. And I guess I just found out that I like my cash flow to be steady and boring, right?
Mhm.
So we exited that business, sold that property. So, here we are today with still just that one long-term rental in Augusta. And so at this point, I am doing some direct-to-agent style marketing and focusing on two aspects: wholesaling a bit to build some capital to then be able to purchase some more properties with that capital.
Okay. And when doing these wholesale deals, are you strictly going after cash deals? Are you doing creative deals as well?
Yeah, primarily focusing on creative deals. I'm looking at basically homes that are listed that have been on the market for longer than the average days on market, 100 days or more often. Those are the ones I'm trying to target to get in front of investors, speak to them to see if their sellers will be willing to entertain a creative solution. So that's kind of where I'm focusing. I know the thing about investing in real estate is that there are so many ways that work, and they all work. But it's really about finding the one that really resonates with you and one that you can actually dedicate the time to and are willing to dedicate the time to, because it's going to take a certain level of discipline, right? So initially I started out doing direct to seller marketing with pre-foreclosures, and I got burned out. It's just a lot trying, especially when I was doing it on a very limited marketing budget. So I didn't have all the fancy CRMs and tools and automated dialers. I didn't have all that. So I was doing a lot of this manually, and it's just a lot of work that goes into finding these properties, finding the actual owners, skip tracing those numbers, seeing a list of 6 phone numbers, and trying to figure out which one works. Well, you don't figure it out until you go through all of them, right?
Mm.
And then you may never get an answer. So you do that, a couple hundred times, and maybe you get 2 people to speak to you. Right. So I mean, that may be okay with some people, but for me, based on what I do, because again, I've got a W-2, so I'm trying to do this in the mix of all of that, and the family, right? So it was just a bit much for me to continue to do consistently. With the direct to agent model, I'm more comfortable with talking to agents because it's almost like going to work. It's almost like what I do on my day job when I'm talking to customers or other companies to try to see where the product set that my company has can help them. Right. So it's one of those areas where I found translates well for me. So I like this approach, and it's been better in terms of actually getting viable leads. I don't have to wonder whether or not the phone number is right. All I have to do is try to figure out what are the pain points, the key pain points, and try to match up a offer that works for everybody.
I gotcha. So you're just going off days on market. Are you filtering out like low equity or uh
Yeah, a couple of ways. So primarily it is higher days on market, low equity. So I'm looking at like 20% equity or less, and interest rates that are below 5%. So targeting a lot of people who bought over the last like 3 years.
mhm.
Well, really in that 2019 to 20 first half of 2022 timeframe. Those are the people that were able to either buy with interest rates still low, or they refinanced. And for whatever reason, they need to move. And that could be a number of things. I run into a lot of veterans with VA loans, and either they're going on to their next home, which is their forever home, or maybe they're at a military base and they've been reassigned somewhere, so they've got to do something with the property. They don't want to keep it. And then there's just people who have situations happen, right? Life happens to everybody. There's divorces, there's other family situations where maybe someone has to move closer to a parent. It's all those things happen, and I try to focus on bringing solutions to people where they're not having to actually bring money to the table to sell their house. We just try to focus on a win-win situation where we can take care of the agent, we can get the seller some amount of money so they can move on to their next place, and then of course try to build in and factor in some kind of fee for myself as the person that's trying to bring the solution to them.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, you and this is kind of the sense I got when we talked on the phone the other day, is that like what you're marketing for, that's the stuff I want to buy.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we can work something out. And like I had said on the phone, I'm happy because I did help people um with their calls with agents. So if you have questions, I'd love to help out as best I can. But overall, I think it's just you, right? Or do you have a team that you're working with?
Yeah, it's primarily me. I mean, I've worked with a couple of people here in the Atlanta sub two uh, community also, and then on the sub two community, there's a problems to profits session. That's a Zoom session that's recorded every Friday, and Casey Gregerson is the leader of that one, and I've worked with him, still working with him on some things also. So yeah, but primarily it's me and my wife that run the business. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's your schedule like for these calls? Do you have it set up, or are you just making them when you can?
A little bit of both. The way I operate in general is I'm also using the LOI Blaster tool, so that kind of helps automate my offers. And not to get too far in the weeds, but basically, it's a tool that's been created. Myron Briley is working with that, and Ryan, I always get his last name wrong, Ryan Schroep, um, created this tool, and essentially it just automates LOIs for you. It allows you to pull a list, out of PropStream or whatever, or batch, and filters that list out for you and automatically generate LOIs that will be emailed to agents. And so I'll do that, and I will, wait for those responses to come in. And when we do get the responses that are favorable, I set up appointments to call them. So that way I can kind of manage my time a little bit better. A lot of times it's during the middle of the day on a lunch break or something like that while I'm working. Or sometimes, agents tend to be flexible. After 4 or 5 o'clock, some of them are willing to get on a call then also. So the automation piece allows us to be able to schedule these things a little bit easier. It's not like something I'm just cold calling agents all day.
Gotcha.
We get those positive or favorable responses, and then we can schedule a call from there.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know, because that was one of the biggest things when I was calling agents. That was one of the biggest things that helped me, is once I set aside time, because of my schedule, I was able to set aside about 4 hours every day that I was off, and I would just sit down and just make those calls.
Yeah.
Now, we weren't using the LOI blaster, so all of mine were cold calls. But no, that's good to hear, man. And it sounds like you've been doing it for a little bit, maybe still fairly new.
Yeah, I'm still fairly new. So I joined Sub 2 back in March of this year. So just about 6 months or so now at this point. Like I said, I started initially, I did like the first 90 days I was doing direct to seller. And like I said, I burned out from there. And I took about a month, or maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I kind of stepped back to figure out, okay, what am I going to pivot to? And then that's when I found the LOI blaster during one of the last Money Bee challenges that Pace put on. And I'm like, all right, well, this I can relate to because I am more comfortable speaking with agents. And then, one of my main issues, people always say it, right? If you don't have leads, you don't have a business, right? So one of my issues was consistently generating leads. And for me, LOI Blaster solved that problem for me. So leads are not necessarily a problem anymore with the LOI Blaster. So yeah, it's been a really, really good transition so far. Haven't closed a deal yet. Been close, but again, for me, it's actually about having the leads, because at least with leads, I got something to work with. Where before, I just, they just weren't there for me. Was not successful with getting the direct to seller leads.
Absolutely. And I mean, it gives you the opportunity to see what skills or where your business is lacking. That way you can then correct it. Because like if you don't have leads, you can speculate all day, but you don't know.
Yep.
So that's good, man. I'm glad to hear it. That was me and my best friend, we just kind of started this whole buying thing, and initially that's what I was getting frustrated. I was like, oh man, we don't have leads. We don't have any deals coming in. I know we're trying to buy them. I guess I got to start, door knocking. I got to start doing all these other lead generating ideas. And then I was listening to one of the Get Creative podcast episodes with Pace, and he was talking to a guy named Nathaniel, and I can't remember his last name. That basically, Nathaniel's doing the same thing, right? Yes, he's trying to wholesale because he needs some today money, but ultimately, if he could choose, he would buy.
Right.
So Pace was like, well, then don't wholesale. Like, don't spend your time wholesaling. Just basically, if you're buying, your leads should be wholesalers. Have, like in your case, you're already have a system in place that you're reaching out to agents. Why would I replicate that just to be in competition with you when my goal is to buy them?
Yeah.
Right. So instead, I just come to you, say, hey, what you got? And you can go, I got this one. And I go, all right, I'll buy that. That type of thing. So
yeah, makes sense.
It's understanding who your lead or where your leads are coming from are important, I guess is the term for that. Yeah, because in my case, leads are wholesalers with deals. So
Yeah, makes sense.
sweet, man. Well, I apologize if I'm a little slow today. I was on shift last night and we didn't end up going to bed till after midnight. So,
No worries, man. No worries.
but let's see. Okay, so we know you're wholesaling now. Um, got one rental. Uh, what? Okay, so you have one rental, and you kind of mentioned that you would like to get more steady income. So I'm assuming that means after you get some traction going, maybe some cash in your pocket, you're going to start buying properties. Are you going to at some point drop the wholesaling, or are you going to keep that as a supplement?
Yeah, I've thought about that, right? And a big part of me, a big part of me, I, honestly, I would like to not have to continue to wholesale, but there could still be some value in keeping that part of the business as a supplement. Also,
No,
um,
go close the door. I'm sorry.
I think
I love you,
one of
girls.
the little ones.
Close the door. No, I'm not. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I know that life all too well.
uh,
Um,
so you were saying, I apologize. Back up just a couple minutes.
yeah, yeah. You were asking about whether or not I'm going to continue to wholesale as or keep it as part of the business,
Right.
and I think I will eventually just keep that. Um, if it works out the way I plan, the majority of the things I come across, I will probably end up keeping. Until I get to a certain point, then maybe again it just becomes value to keep the wholesale business there, just to be able to add value to somebody else's portfolio for properties that either I don't want to take down, or maybe capital is tied up and I can't take it down. So I think I may end up just keeping that as part of the business.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was, you know, at some point, like right now, I think in our stage, we're like, okay, we gotta get these deals, get some cash flow in. Once we have that, though, our and I'm just speculating, but our mentality is probably going to change to, okay, now we have this money coming in. How are we going to keep more of it?
Yeah.
So like now, maybe it makes more sense to sell a property or on maybe terms or something like that, so that we can get that um, advantage in taxes and stuff like that, or
Yeah.
maybe it makes sense at some point to be like, you know what, I don't care if it's cash flowing or not, I need to buy another property, that type of thing. So obviously your priorities change as you grow. um, so okay, well, Keith, I'm running out of questions that I can think of. um, is there anything else you want to share before we move on to the last part of our show?
I mean, this has been good so far, man. I really do appreciate you bringing me on. First time for me on the podcast, right? And I think one of the reasons I did this, and part of me kind of had that imposter syndrome also. I don't always feel like I've got enough value to add, but I've been working on the mindset piece. And it's not just for investing, but just for life in general, right? Changing your mindset around any and everything you do on a daily basis is key. And for me, this is one of those things, kind of a challenge for me to get in front of people and share even a little bit of my story. And then one of the big reasons I did it was because my wife was like, "Why not?" Yeah, do it. I mean, you don't need to be, what qualifications do you think you don't have that would prevent you from just talking about who you are, what you do, and what you're about, right? And which that's kind of key, right? My wife is probably she's the biggest part of this thing, right? She's always going to be the number one partner that I have, and I mean she's huge in the support that she gives to me. And I think that's the most important thing is who you partner yourself with in life. And I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have partnered myself up with the right one. So, yeah,
That's beautiful. Yeah. No, one thing I'll say, I definitely get feeling like you don't have enough value to provide. Um, but I have to ask, like, what's something that you're consistent in?
yeah. I mean, from a real estate standpoint, I believe I am pretty good at finding deals, finding potential in deals, and then analyzing, underwriting. I feel like I'm pretty good there. Numbers has always been a thing for me. I'm an engineer by degree, and yeah, I've always been kind of a math geek. So I enjoy spreadsheets. A lot of people
Right.
don't, but I'm one of those people that I do enjoy a good spreadsheet. I enjoy the analysis. I enjoy manipulating the numbers to see what can happen with any deal. So I think
So right
that's
there,
big.
dude.
Yeah,
There's like what, 3, maybe 4 different points of value that you could provide.
yeah,
That's the biggest thing I learned, because when I started this podcast, I felt the same way. I was like, man, I know I need to get out there. I need my whole reason for this was networking with people.
yeah,
Um, but and I was like, what am I going to ask? Oh, well, whatever. We'll just go along with it. That's why I don't edit anything. I just want to make sure I get out there and do it. Um, as time has gone on, what's been brought up multiple times is that one of the biggest points of value that I provide is this podcast. Now, it's not huge, right? I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers or anything like that, but just giving, like, yourself, as you said, this is the first time you've been on a podcast. I've been able to provide that to you.
yeah,
We've been able to provide that to other people. So, and it's something that surprisingly I've had no real problem being consistent with. Obviously, you got hiccups, like, normally I don't film on a Saturday. By the way, guys, this was filmed on Saturday. All these come out on Monday. Um, but sometimes plans fall through, and in this case, Keith happened to be there to hop in and share his story. So this tends to be one of the things that I'm more consistent about, and it just seems to provide the most value. So I think, and we've already gone over it with Keith, but guys, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't have any value, look at what you do consistently. Figure out what you do consistently and try and see where the value comes in that. And then maybe just start sharing it with people. In this case, Keith, he's an engineer. He's good with numbers. I'm certain he's consistent looking at numbers all the time. So you got a question about numbers, go to Keith. He can help you out. If he's got time, he's a busy man. All right. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. So since I've lost my train of thought and where I was going, we're going to move on to the last part of our show. Just a few questions, pretty basic. First, Keith, what made you decide? Well, I guess you kind of answered it. But what made you decide to be on the podcast today?
yeah. I mean, for me, I saw it as an opportunity to push myself outside of a comfort zone. Um, I saw it as an opportunity just to do something I've not done before, right? And I think that's what, specifically this year, that's what it's been about for me, is finding out where or those limitations that I've placed on myself and figuring out ways to push beyond those, right? Because the comfort zone can keep you in a trap, mentally. And like I said, mindset has been a real growth area for me this year. I've been becoming someone different this year. And so I saw this opportunity, even though it did scare me. I was a little fearful, unsure, trying to figure out, okay, well, what value do I offer? But I was able to push past those things and just agree to do it, right? Because again, why not? So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's probably the primary reason.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear, man, and I'm glad you showed up. Definitely helped me out. Just like everybody who's been on the show. I know, obviously, is it my podcast? Yes, but it's your show, right? I wouldn't be able to do this without you. It'd get real boring if it was just me talking about stuff. I can do that, but it'll be so scattered, no form. It'd be ridiculous. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
So second, we kind of talked about it before the show, but what is the goal for your net worth? What's your ideal net worth?
Yeah, for me, I think about that in steps. Like there's a place I ultimately want to be, but right now where it sits, I want to get to a certain point before I step to the next one. And for me, I think that the first step in my net worth is like that $3 million net worth mark. So I've got some work to do to get there, but that's kind of the goal initially, and then evaluate, see where we are, what we need, and then go from there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's analogy I've always liked about setting a goal. Is you set it on the middle shelf. If you set it on the lowest shelf, that's too easy. It's not worth pursuing.
Yep.
Set it on the highest shelf is way too hard. You can't quite reach it. But if you set it on the middle shelf, you got to just reach just enough to get it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
You hit that 3 million mark, you move that cookie jar up to the middle shelf again, and boom, who knows where
Exactly.
that could be. That could be 30 million, that could be 100 million. Who knows? The skills you build at that point, ain't no telling.
Yeah. I mean, it's relative. Everyone's going to have a different answer to that.
Yeah.
But where I am right now, that's where it is. There are a lot of people who say, "Oh, that's still too low." That's fine. You set yours, I'll set mine. We
Well,
all set one, and we reevaluate at a certain point.
I think the key there is that you prefaced it with steps, right?
Yep.
That first step is 3 million. So that tells people, okay, that's not where you're not going to be done there. Right. You're going to continue on. But again, it's to each his own.
Yep.
So, awesome. Well, so we got the goal. What are your strengths that are going to help you get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think earlier when we were talking about the value that I bring, I think that those things, specifically with real estate, being able to find the deals, being able to analyze the deals and make them make sense, sort of being that creative engineer. I think those things are what's going to help me as I try to help people and help myself and my family situation as well. And just being able to talk to people. The network being the net worth is really true. And that's one of the areas of growth for me that I've been experiencing this year is really putting myself out there and talking to people. So that's the other thing, being able to leverage basic communication skills, just being a decent human being, I think in general, and just communicating value to people and being able to listen to what value they can communicate to you and putting that together to create something or make something happen, some kind of a partnership. Those skills, I think, I often overlook those basic skills sometimes about just being able to effectively communicate with people and how much that can add to all of our lives, right? Long story short, yeah, I think those things are what's going to help me to get to where I want to be.
Gotcha. And this is a new way to ask this question. It's basically, what are your weaknesses? But what's holding you back?
Me, it's my own internal limitations I place on myself. I think that's the biggest piece. I tend to be somewhat of a perfectionist. Also, it's like sometimes I want to make sure everything is at its optimal place, optimal level before I actually do something about it. And I've been learning to just take the imperfect action, right? Just do it anyway. I read a book earlier this year titled "Do It Anyway." It's by a singer, gospel singer named Tasha Cobbs, and that phrase is kind of just stuck with me. And so that's exactly what I've been putting into practice is, okay, this is what you got. It's not perfect, but just do it and see what happens. And in that way, I detach myself from the outcome, right? Because I think that's the real issue sometimes is we let fear cripple us because we've already got an idea of what is supposed to happen, what the outcome should look like. But when you detach yourself from that, it just makes it a little bit easier just to go ahead and do it, put it out there, and then you accept what happens on the back end without having any preconceived notions about it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a big thing for me too. Earlier this year, not like super early this year, just maybe 2 months ago. I went through a quick summary of "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday, and it gave an example about Amelia Earhart, who her goal was to be the first woman pilot, but before that ever happened, she got offered to be the first female passenger on a plane. And I mean, that's not necessarily what she wants to do. She could have said no. But she saw it as, even though it may not have been a step in the like immediate direction she wanted to go, it was a step forward. Yeah. So she said yes. And so that was the biggest thing for me is like, even if it doesn't seem that the action you're taking is going to just automatically take you in a straight shot to where you want to go, saying yes and going for it, it might be a roundabout way and you'll hit obstacles on the way, but you'll end up getting there as long as you keep moving.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Just different ways to look at it, man. I get it.
Oh yeah.
Well, awesome, brother. Well, what do you need help with that's going to make you money in the next 30 days?
Yeah, I think what I need help with now is support when I do get leads, support sometimes with closing, and then also making sure I've got a credible and a buyer that I can trust, right? I think that's the main thing, just because of the way, again, focusing on some wholesaling of some creative deals is just finding those end buyers who are going to perform. And then, sometimes when there are some difficult situations, because I'm not as experienced, specifically with the creative piece, is getting the support sometimes with how to structure some of those creative deals and close them. So yeah, I think those are the two areas right now where I could get some support and could definitely, get some deals done.
Okay. So obviously, before I open it up to anybody else, we've already talked. I told you, yes, I'm newer to buying, but my goal is I'm going to bring in advisors so we can get deals done. I'll be open and honest with you. My highest core value is honesty. So, which means sometimes I'll say, hey, man, I don't know what's going on. I'm a little nervous. But so that side, I definitely want to help you with. Obviously, guys, if you are regular buyer, especially in Georgia, because I think that's where you're mainly wholesaling, right?
Yeah, primarily focusing on Georgia. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're buying in Georgia, and you know that you can perform, get in touch with Keith. Also, if you are a closer and you want to help Keith because he's such a likable guy, he's great. You watch this whole episode and you're just like, man, his wife's lucky. Like, boom, get in touch with him. Which means, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Keith?
Yeah, Instagram, our business page is at Page 7 Properties on Instagram. That's probably the best way to find us. Or you can email me also. I guess we can probably add that to some comments or something. But it's
I'll put
Keith.
it in the description.
Yeah, it's Keith at page7properties.com, and that's 7 spelled out on the email. So yeah, those are the best ways to get me. Our website is page7properties.com also, so you can see that, learn more about us as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put those in the description of this video, so that everybody can reach out if they're able to help out, or if they just want to do deals with you. But yeah, man, Keith, that's all I got, brother.
Good deal, man. Well, I appreciate it, man. I really do. This was good. This was fun, and yeah, I appreciate you. Just allowing me the opportunity to come and just share a little bit. Also, so I know it wasn't under the most ideal circumstances because situations happen, but yeah, this has been really good.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Such late notice. Jumping on here, especially like you got some traveling going on today. So
Yeah,
appreciate you taking time out of your day, man.
absolutely. We got to find some time to meet up at some point.
Absolutely. That's right. You're on the south side of Atlanta?
Yeah. I'm in South Fulton.
South Fulton. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you want to head up to Buford, but I'll be hosting a meetup in Buford on the 28th. So.
All right. Yeah. I've got to look at my calendar to see if we're actually in town. We have a lot going on right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All good things, but still just a lot.
Absolutely, brother. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. I'm going to let you go, let you get back to it so you can do your traveling, and close this thing up, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, guys, that's our show. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And again, I shouldn't have to tell you this, but if you like the show, like and subscribe. What'd you think? Thought Keith, well-spoken. Thought he was a great dude. A little jealous of his beard, to be honest. I wish I could grow mine out, but it wouldn't look that good. So, not right now. I mean, I don't know. It's been like 5 years since I've had a beard, so I don't even know. Anyways, guys, hope you guys have a wonderful week. Peace be with you. Love you. Be safe. See you next week.